The photo hit me harder than a punch. No warning, no wind-up, just a casual scroll on a quiet Saturday morning. Still in my robe, watering the lawn like every other weekend for the last 27 years, I felt safe. The sun was barely up, the coffee machine was still hissing behind me. For a moment, everything was normal. Routine. Safe. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. It was Alice, my wife. Well, not directly, just a Facebook post. A photo. She was in Dallas, supposedly at a sales conference. In the picture, she stood beside Bryce, the golden retriever of her office, all teeth and zero spine. He had one arm wrapped around her shoulder, the other holding two drinks. Her head tilted toward him like they were posing for an engagement shoot, her hand resting on his chest. The caption read, "My real partner. Hashtag Workisband for life." 2 hearts. 57 likes. 16 comments. All nauseating. Love you too. Office goals. Finally, just say it already. Loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. I stared at it. The first time I reread it, I actually laughed. That kind of dry, breathless laugh that dies in your throat halfway through, like your body knows better than to waste the oxygen. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked into the house, poured myself the rest of the coffee, opened the kitchen drawer, and pulled out the beige folder I'd prepped 3 weeks ago. Not in anticipation. No, I still had some dignity back then. But after overhearing her giggle on speakerphone with Bryce late one night in the guest bathroom, whispering something about, "If only you weren't married," that night I started keeping receipts. Emotional ones at first, then legal ones. The folder had everything ready: petition, disclosures, property division sheet. My lawyer called it clean and aggressive. I slid it across the table like a dealer throwing down the final card. Then I opened Facebook. Her post was still up. Of course it was. I typed, "Congratulations. The divorce papers are on the kitchen table." Posted. Logged out. Then I went outside and resumed watering the grass. The sprinkler hissed like nothing had changed. But the moment tasted different, like burnt coffee and pennies. She called that night, like clockwork. Probably after one of her friends texted, "Huh, Alice, check your Facebook." Her voice was too cheerful, that plastic, fake, upbeat tone she used when she wanted to sound innocent but knew the gun was already smoking. "Hey, babe." She dragged the word out like syrup. "I saw your little comment. You're not actually mad, are you? It was a joke. Everyone at the office does that, you know. It's like a running thing. Work husband, work wife. Just for laughs." I didn't interrupt. I let her do her little dance. Let her fill the silence with nervous giggles and justifications. It's amazing how much rope people will give you when they don't realize they're hanging themselves. "You seriously took it the wrong way," she kept going. "It's just Bryce. You know how he is. He's harmless." "God, you're being dramatic." When she finally paused to inhale, I said 3 words. "Check the kitchen." Dead silence for 2 seconds. Then laughter. "Oh my God. You're joking. You're joking, right? You didn't actually." I didn't reply. She kept laughing, but now it was thinner, with a waver behind it. "You're such a dork sometimes," she tried. "Seriously, this is overreacting. It's a dumb caption. I didn't mean anything by it." Sure. Just like she didn't mean anything when I overheard her call Bryce at 11:37 p.m. on a Tuesday 3 weeks ago, whispering from the laundry room like a teenager sneaking a call. "You looked so good today in that gray shirt." Stop it. I was blushing all through that meeting. Imagine if we didn't have to sneak around. Yeah, real jokey stuff. That was the night I called Marcus, my lawyer. Set things in motion. Told him we weren't quite at the iceberg yet, but I could see it on the radar. He told me, "Start gathering quietly. Emails, finance records, insurance forms. When it hits, move fast. Don't engage." So now I wasn't engaging. I was executing. Alice thought it was a bluff. She always assumed my silence meant passivity, that the absence of yelling meant surrender. But no, some people prepare in silence. And when they strike, it's already done. I ended the call by saying, "Take care, Alice." Click. I imagined her staring at the kitchen table, blinking at the beige folder, the legal seal. The absence of anything resembling a warning. Just the facts. Just like her caption, Monday, 9:14 a.m. I was logged into my burner Gmail account, the one I used for Amazon returns and the occasional Craigslist purchase, back when we still had shared passwords. I took one last look at the screenshot before attaching it. Alice draped over Bryce. That ridiculous, my real partner, caption shining like a neon confession. My comment just below it, like the final nail. Subject line, inappropriate conduct. You decide. Attached, screenshot of the Facebook post. Metadata showing it was posted during the Dallas conference. A short message. Not sure what your internal policies are, but this photo appears to have been taken during company time at a company-sponsored event and seems to involve an employee in a supervisory role making public claims about a romantic relationship with a subordinate. I'll leave the interpretation to you. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I hit send, then closed the laptop. No fanfare. No evil grin. Just the mechanical click of a plan shifting into gear. Now, to be clear, I didn't expect a reply. Corporate HR is slower than molasses unless there's legal fire under their feet. But Alice had mentioned more than once, usually while sipping wine and bragging about her flawless compliance record, that her company had a zero-tolerance policy on interoffice relationships that weren't disclosed, especially if there was a power dynamic. And Bryce? Freshly promoted. She trained him last year. She was on the damn promotion panel. Even better, the company had just rolled out a new branding campaign. Integrity. Excellence. Respect. So when you publicly declare your real partner as the guy you're supposedly supervising, and you do it while clinking champagne glasses on a trip they paid for, you're not just breaking rules. You're handing your head to HR on a sterling silver platter. And she didn't even realize it. By noon, her Facebook post was gone. By 3 p.m., I got a text from Dawn, a friend who worked in her office. Bro, HR just opened a case. Boom. That night, while she was likely crafting some limp apology in her hotel room, or worse still, convincing herself this was just some overreaction, I sat down with a legal pad, a glass of scotch, and a checklist I'd been curating since the laundry room phone call. Item 1. Transfer my 401k into a separate living trust. Already initiated. Marcus had walked me through it over a lunch that felt more like a war briefing than a consultation. The trust was airtight. No marital claims, no loopholes. She wouldn't touch a dime. Item 2. Change the beneficiary on my life insurance. Used to be Alice. Now it was my sister, Elaine. She's practical, no nonsense, and already raised 2 kids on her own. She won't cry when the paperwork comes. She'll just sign, file, and move on. Item 3. Bank accounts. We used to have joint everything. Her idea. I called it romantic socialism. No more. Different passwords. Different institutions. Different zip codes. I left just enough in the joint account to keep the lights on for the next 30 days. Utilities, mortgage, and one final Hulu charge. She'd no doubt notice and text me about it. Let her wonder why it suddenly didn't log in. Item 4. Credit cards. 2 were in my name with her as an authorized user. Not anymore. 1 call. Done. She'd try to swipe at the airport bar on her return flight and get hit with a cheerful decline. It wasn't spite. It was architecture. Every form I signed, every account I updated, it was the sound of structure being pulled out from under her, one bolt at a time. She still thought, I'm sorry, was going to be the cure-all. Let her believe that. The longer she stayed in that bubble, the sharper the pop would be. Around midnight, I muted my phone. A string of texts from Alice glowed across the screen. Can we talk? You're overreacting. Call me when you calm down. Not once did she write. I didn't cheat. Not once did she say, it's not what it looks like. Just the usual plea to rewrite tone and context, as if the betrayal lived only in my interpretation. I muted the thread and went to bed. Tuesday morning, 7:42 a.m. The sound of tires in the driveway pulled me from a half-sleep. She had come back a day early. I knew she would. People only delay coming home when there's comfort waiting. When it's dread on the other end, they show up early, hoping proximity will fix what time can't. I was on the porch when the Uber pulled up. She stepped out, wearing those oversized sunglasses that screamed celebrity in crisis, dragging her carry-on like it owed her money. Her phone was in one hand, pressed to her ear. I just think we should talk in person, she was saying. Then she froze halfway up the walk. The front door didn't open. She tried the key again, jiggled the lock, knocked once, then twice, like that would help. I stayed seated, sipping from a glass of water with lemon, casually, like I was watching the weather change. It's been changed, I said flatly. She whipped her head toward me, lips parting, eyes hidden by tinted glass. What? Are you serious right now? I raised the glass. Dead serious. She yanked the sunglasses off. The performance started. Her brows arched into an expression she probably thought was half outraged, half heartbroken. You're locking me out of my own house? This is insane. No, I said calmly. This is overdue. She blinked rapidly, as though she could reset the scene by sheer force. You're being dramatic. We need to talk about this like adults. It was a stupid post. That's all. Everyone jokes like that. I let the silence stretch. The birds in the maple tree filled it better than her excuses ever could. Her voice cracked into a sharper pitch. You're going to regret this. You can't just. I cut her off without raising my tone. Alice, check the kitchen. The words landed like a gavel. She knew what I meant. The beige folder. The papers with seals and signatures that didn't bluff. Her jaw tightened. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Finally, she whispered, You're serious. I leaned back, sipped the lemon water again, and said nothing. She stood there on the porch, suitcase at her side, eyes darting between the locked door and my stillness. The silence was a wall she couldn't climb. That afternoon, Don called. He sounded uneasy, like a man carrying news he didn't want to deliver. She didn't just flirt with him, bro, he said. They were acting like a damn couple down there. Same hotel room key, same breakfast table, same seat on the shuttle bus. Everyone saw it. I didn't respond immediately. I let him talk. He sighed. She's got a formal HR meeting tomorrow. They already flagged the post. And your comment, it's circulating. She looked wrecked today. Does her boss know? I finally asked. He does now? Word got back to him this morning. He looked like someone told him his stock portfolio died. Said he had no idea she was sleeping with someone she evaluates. I closed my eyes. There it was. The missing puzzle piece. Not just cheating. Not just public humiliation. Professional betrayal. Alice didn't just trash our marriage. She handed a bag of liability to her employer and rang the bell. When Don hung up, I walked into the garage. The place still smelled of oil, cedar, and old projects. I reorganized a drawer that hadn't been touched since Obama was in office. Screwdrivers. Dead batteries. Weather stripping. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was calibrating. That night, I saw her again. She was pacing the driveway, phone pressed to her ear, whispering into it. No tears. No apologies. Just desperation, trying to piece together the puzzle too late. I opened the window slightly. The night air carried her words. Marcus says he's bluffing. He wouldn't actually. No, I don't think he has the guts. He's always been like this, quiet, passive. I'll fix it. Just stay calm, okay? Don't tell anyone yet. I almost laughed. She thought silence meant weakness. She thought calm meant surrender. She thought the absence of noise meant nothing was happening. But silence is where the trap gets built. And Alice had just stepped in with both feet. Wednesday morning came with the kind of stillness that always precedes a storm. I was at the kitchen table, coffee steaming, pen in hand, marking up documents Marcus had sent overnight. Clean separations, transfer authorizations, property inventories, the skeleton of a new life, drawn in ink. At 8:02 a.m., her car screeched into the driveway. She slammed the door, marched up to the porch, and hammered her fist against the wood. Open the door, David. Her voice cracked on my name. This is ridiculous. We need to talk. I sipped my coffee, flipped to the next page, and circled a clause. A pause, then the rattling of the lock. A sharp intake of breath when the key failed again. She tried 3 times before her footsteps retreated. Seconds later, the muffled sound of her phone. I didn't have to listen closely. Her voice was raised enough for the whole street to hear. He changed the locks. He actually changed them. No, I don't know what he thinks he's doing. He left divorce papers like it's some kind of performance. Performance. That was her word for everything she didn't understand. By noon, I was in Marcus's office. The man had a way of speaking that sounded like he'd been hired to narrate the world's coldest audiobook. No wasted syllables. No sympathy. Just precision. He slid a folder toward me. Division looks clean. You'll keep the house. The accounts are already shifting. She'll contest, but her position is weak. Especially with, he tapped the folder, these. Inside were the screenshots, the caption, the HR complaint confirmation. Evidence that her choices weren't private indiscretions, but public liabilities. Marcus leaned back. She'll scramble. She'll stall. But with her company involved, her leverage shrinks daily. The optics alone will box her in. I nodded. He didn't need me to say more. He knew I understood. This wasn't about emotion. It was about structure. And structure was on my side. That evening, Don called again. His tone was even lower this time. They pulled her into HR at 2. Closed-door meeting. She came out pale. No smile. Not even fake small talk. I waited. They suspended her pending investigation. He exhaled, like he'd been holding it all day. She's not allowed to set foot in the office until further notice. Word spreading. People are talking. I thanked him. Hung up. Went back to trimming the hedges. The neighbors waved. I waved back. On the surface, nothing had changed. Beneath it, Alice's world was fracturing, one seam at a time. At 7:19 p.m., she showed up again. This time without sunglasses, without the armor of indignation. She knocked softly. Twice. Then, David, please. Her voice was small, tired, almost believable. I opened the door just enough to see her face. Mascara smudged, hair unbrushed. She clutched her phone like it was a lifeline. Can I come in? She whispered. I studied her for a moment, then stepped aside. She walked into the kitchen, stopped at the table, stared at the stack of papers. Her eyes flicked to mine. You're really doing this? I said nothing. She sank into the chair across from me, head in her hands. You don't understand. It's not what it looks like. Bryce, it's stupid, it's nothing. A distraction. I never meant to. Her voice cracked again. I messed up. Okay, I know I did. But we can fix this. We've built a life together. We can't just. I slid a page across the table. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My signature at the bottom. You already did, I said quietly. She looked at it, then back at me. So that's it. 27 years, and you throw it away because of a caption? Because of one mistake. I leaned forward, voice low, steady. It wasn't one mistake. It was years of little ones. Late-night calls. Secret meetings. Lies dressed as conferences. This wasn't sudden, Alice. It was inevitable. She shook her head violently. You're twisting it. You've always been paranoid. Always assuming the worst. You don't know what it's like, feeling stuck, invisible. I cut her off with a question. Who were you on the phone with in the driveway this morning? Her lips parted, but no words came. She froze. That silence was all I needed. I stood, gathered the papers, and stacked them neatly. This conversation is over. She left without another word. The porch light caught her face as she walked to the car, half fury, half desperation. She still didn't understand that there was no negotiation left. I watched her drive off, taillights vanishing into the dark. Then I closed the door, locked it, and exhaled. For the first time in weeks, the house felt like mine again. Quiet. Clean. Thursday morning, Marcus called. His tone was brisk. She's already trying to move assets. Transferred $5,000 to a separate account yesterday. But we froze joint accounts ahead of schedule, so it bounced. He paused. Expect her to get creative. She'll reach out. Maybe try to bait you into an argument. Don't take it. Silence is your strongest weapon now. I smiled faintly. That's never been a problem. By Friday, the cracks in her mask were visible. Friends texted me screenshots of her social media. Vague posts about betrayal, cryptic quotes about loyalty, selfies with red eyes captioned, learning who's real. She still didn't grasp it. She thought she was controlling the narrative. But narratives collapse when facts arrive. At 5:43 p.m., Dawn sent another message. Word is Bryce got pulled into HR too. Not looking good. 2 careers. 2 reputations. 1 caption. I set my phone down, poured another scotch, and sat in the quiet. This wasn't revenge yet. This was only the foundation. The walls hadn't even gone up. But Alice was already shivering in the draft. Saturday morning, I drove past her car parked at her sister's house. Curtains half drawn, a suitcase visible by the door. She hadn't even tried to hide it. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. I just kept driving, past the grocery store we used to visit together, past the park where we'd walked in quieter years. Every corner carried a ghost. Every memory tasted different now, like burnt sugar. When I got home, I opened the filing cabinet in the garage. Inside, a flash drive labeled failsafe. Marcus had never seen it. Alice had never known it existed. On it, years of backups. Emails. Receipts. Screenshots. Enough to map every lie she had built since Bryce slouched into her office with that lazy grin. The evidence wasn't for me. I didn't need it. I already knew the truth. It was for her. For the moment she still thought was coming. The one where she'd beg, bargain, twist words into pity. That's when the drive would land on the table, silent as a verdict. And she'd understand, finally, that I'd been one step ahead all along. If you're listening without a subscription, now's the time. Because trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Sunday morning arrived with an eerie clarity. The house was silent, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the creak of the old maple outside the window. I sat at the kitchen table, notebook open, a fresh checklist forming in blue ink. Phase 1, financial separation, was already in motion. Locks changed, accounts secured, credit revoked. But chess is never won in the opening. The real game begins when your opponent still thinks they have options. Alice thought she had options. That was my advantage. At 10:14 a.m., she texted, "Alice, we need to meet. Face to face. Please." I stared at the message, then slid my phone back into my pocket. Silence has a weight. Let her feel it. By noon, another buzz. "Alice, I talked to HR. They're blowing it out of proportion. If you'd just help me explain." I smirked. She still thought I was the lifeline. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd spent years treating my quiet loyalty like background noise, until suddenly she needed it amplified. I spent the afternoon with Marcus, reviewing the next phase. He laid out the plan like a surgeon before an operation. Division of assets will stall her, but the real leverage is discovery, he said. Emails, financial records, phone logs. If she contests the divorce, we can subpoena everything. That means her messages, her calls, her receipts. He looked me dead in the eye. "Do you want to play clean? Or do you want to play to win?" I didn't hesitate. "Win." Marcus nodded once, as though he'd been expecting that answer. "Then you'll need to trigger early. File the petition this week. Don't wait for her to get her bearings." I left his office with a new folder tucked under my arm. File stamped. Dates highlighted. The path was set. That evening, I sat on the porch as the sun dipped low, painting the neighborhood in gold. Across the street, the Millers were grilling. Kids laughed. Dogs barked. Life carried on with its usual innocence. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Alice. It was Dawn. "She's unraveling, man. Word around the office is she's blaming you, saying you set her up." I chuckled softly. "In a way, I did." "No, seriously," he pressed. "She's telling people you've been jealous for years. Controlling. That this is your revenge because she outgrew you." I let the silence stretch before answering. "Good. Let her spin the story. When the truth lands, the contrast will kill her credibility." Monday, 8:37 a.m. Alice showed up again. Not at the house this time. At my office. I saw her through the glass door, hair tied back hastily, makeup streaked from tears or lack of sleep. She clutched a tote bag stuffed with papers. She looked less like my wife and more like a client begging for leniency. "David, please," she whispered when the receptionist buzzed her in. "We can't do this like enemies. Not after everything. I'm losing my job. I need you." I leaned against the doorway, hands in my pockets. "You needed me before Bryce. You needed me before hashtags. Before conference room whispers. You made your choice." Her eyes darted, frantic. It wasn't serious. "I was lonely. You've been so distant, so cold. I made mistakes. But we can fix this if you just." I cut her off. "Fixing isn't on the table. Dividing is." She blinked, stunned. "You're really going to throw everything away? The house, the memories, the years?" "No," I said calmly. "You already did." Her face twisted into something darker then. Desperation curdled into anger. "You're going to regret this. I'll fight you every step of the way. I'll take everything." I smiled faintly. "You'll try." That night, Marcus called again. "She's already shopping for a new attorney. I got wine through the network. She'll go aggressive." "Good," I replied. "She'll walk right into discovery." Tuesday brought the first strike. At 9:12 a.m., my phone lit up with a bank notification. Alice had attempted to transfer funds from our joint savings again. Declined. She tried 3 more times throughout the day, each attempt smaller, more desperate. By 3 p.m., she texted, "Alice, why are you doing this? You're leaving me with nothing." I didn't reply. By 6 p.m., another. "Alice, I'll ruin you before I let you ruin me." This time, I replied with one sentence. "Me." Discovery cuts both ways. The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. No reply. Wednesday morning, Marcus sent over the subpoena drafts. Phone records, email chains, financial transactions. Alice's world was about to be peeled open like an orange. I stared at the documents. then pulled the flash drive from my filing cabinet. Failsafe. I'd been saving it for this moment. Years of quiet observations, synced data, backups she never noticed. Evidence so mundane, she'd forgotten it existed. I copied the files onto a clean drive, labeled it disclosure package, and slid it into a manila envelope. This wasn't spite. This was preparation. At 8:45 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Alice. This time, a voicemail. David, please. I can't lose everything. I'll do whatever you want. Just stop this. Please. Her voice was hoarse, cracked. But even in desperation, she never said the one thing that mattered. She never said I'm sorry. Because apologies aren't in her vocabulary. Control is. And for the first time in decades, she didn't have any. Thursday, Don called with the final blow. His voice was heavy. They fired her. Effective immediately. No severance. They said it was a breach of ethics. I sat in the garage, staring at the old workbench where I'd once built shelves for her craft room. My hands were steady, my breathing calm. Thanks, Don, I said softly. Man, she's telling everyone you orchestrated it. That you're out for blood. I smiled faintly. Let her. Because the truth wasn't about orchestrating her downfall. It was about preparing for the inevitable. She built the fire. I just let the wind in. Friday morning, 6:30 a.m. I stood on the porch, the first light breaking over the horizon. Alice's car pulled into the driveway one last time. She stepped out slowly, no sunglasses, no tote bag, no makeup. Just a hollow expression carved into her face. She didn't knock. She didn't call. She just stood there, staring at the locked door. I let the silence stretch. Then I turned, walked back inside, and closed the curtains. The trap had sprung, and she still didn't understand that this was only the beginning. If you're still here, listening without subscribing, hit the button. Because what comes next isn't survival. It's strategy. And strategy is where the real revenge begins. That be why the weekend, Alice's mask had cracked. She wasn't the polished executive wife anymore. She was a woman in freefall, grasping for branches that weren't there. I saw it in the way she texted. The confidence, the condescension, gone. Now, every word bled desperation. Alice, we can work this out. Mediation. Please. I don't want court. Alice, I'll sign whatever you want. Just don't humiliate me. That last one almost made me laugh. She'd already humiliated herself. All I did was hold up the mirror. Still, her words told me something important. She wasn't thinking about salvaging us anymore. She was thinking about salvaging herself. That's when I knew. It was time for phase 2. Marcus and I met Sunday afternoon. His office was sterile, mahogany desk, metal blinds, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. He tapped the latest filings. She'll settle, he said. She doesn't have the stomach for discovery. But if you want maximum leverage, we can drag it out. Bleed her professionally and personally until she begs. I shook my head. Dragging it out gives her hope. I don't want her to think she can negotiate. I want her to realize she already lost. Marcus folded his hands, studying me. Then we accelerate. But understand, once this starts, it doesn't stop. No pulling punches. I looked him dead in the eye. That's the point. Monday morning, I executed phase 2. Step 1, distribution. The disclosure package went to 3 places: her attorney, her HR department, and a quiet envelope addressed to Bryce's wife. Each packet contained carefully chosen receipts, screenshots, call logs, hotel charges, text that left no ambiguity. No commentary, just facts. Step 2, reputation. Don fed me whispers from the office. With the right nudge, I guided them to the right ears. Colleagues she used to mock behind their backs suddenly had proof she was worse than them. Rumors don't need gasoline when you've got spark and wind. Step 3, isolation. Every joint account frozen. Her phone plan separated. Her gym membership quietly revoked. Even the Amazon Prime subscription, gone. 100 small cuts, all designed to remind her that the ground she once walked on was no longer hers. By Friday, Dawn called again. She's radioactive, man. Nobody will even sit with her at lunch. Bryce isn't returning her calls either. His wife blew everything up. I heard she kicked him out. Good, I said simply. She looks finished. Like a ghost. That's because she is, I murmured. And yet, Alice still hadn't hit bottom. Not yet. That was part 3 of the plan. The stage was set. The lights were warming. And she was about to walk into the performance of her life. Without realizing, I wrote the script, Saturday morning, A thick envelope arrived at Alice's sister's house. I know this because I had it delivered by courier, signature required. Inside was a single-page letter. My handwriting. No lawyer, no seal, no theatrics. Just this. Alice, you once told me marriage was about trust. That without it, everything else collapses. Consider this collapse complete. The accounts are no longer yours. The house is no longer yours. The company you kept has destroyed you. This isn't punishment. It's consequence. Don't contact me again. All future matters go through Marcus. David, it wasn't the letter that destroyed her. It was what was clipped to it, a cashier's check. Not for her. For the moving company scheduled to arrive Monday morning. Paid in full. Destination, a storage unit in her name. Her clothes, her trinkets, her hollow little trophies of a life built on pretense. Boxed, labeled, and shipped. She wouldn't even have the satisfaction of deciding when to leave. I decided for her. Monday, 10:12 a.m. The moving truck pulled up. I watched from the porch as strangers dismantled her half of the house. She arrived mid-process, hair wild, eyes red, screaming at the workers to stop. They ignored her, paid in advance, contract ironclad. She turned on me, tears streaming. You can't do this. This is my home. I sipped my coffee calm. Not anymore. Her sobs filled the driveway. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Every shred of dignity, she clung to fell piece by piece into cardboard. By 3 p.m., her presence was erased. The rooms echoed again. Empty. Clean. Mine. But the house was only the symbol. The real blow came the next morning. A polite email from Hudson Bank confirmed the transfer of her car lease into her sole name. Effective immediately. No more cosigner. No more safety net. Her monthly payment, $978. Her salary? Gone. The email ended with a cheerful line. Please confirm payment arrangements within 5 business days to avoid repossession. The trap tightened. She came one last time on a Thursday night. The air was thick with rain, the kind that clings to your skin and makes every word heavier. I heard the knock, slow and deliberate. This time, I opened the door. Alice stood there, soaked, trembling. No makeup, no defenses, just raw desperation. David, she whispered, voice cracking. You win. Okay, you win. I've lost everything. Please just stop. Please. I studied her for a long moment. The woman who once dismissed me as dull, predictable, replaceable, reduced to this. You're wrong, I said quietly. This was never about winning. It was about clarity. She shook her head violently, rain dripping from her hair. I loved you in my own way. Doesn't that matter? I stepped closer, voice low, surgical. If this is your idea of love, Alice, I'm grateful it's gone. Her knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. You've destroyed me. No, I said softly. You destroyed yourself. I just kept the receipts. For a moment, her eyes searched mine, looking for even a flicker of mercy. She found none. Then she whispered, so this is it. You'll just watch me fall. I leaned in, so close she could hear the steadiness of my breath. No, Alice. I won't watch. And with that, I closed the door. The sound of her sobbing against the wood faded slowly into the storm. Weeks passed. Silence settled like fresh paint over the house. No more texts. No more knocks. No more Alice. Then came the call from Marcus. His tone was calm, but tinged with satisfaction. She signed. Full dissolution. No contest. No claims. You keep everything. I nodded. And her. She walked away with nothing but debt. The HR record will follow her. She's unemployable in her field. Word is, she's staying with a cousin in Phoenix. Broke. Alone. I said nothing. Just stared out the window at the maple tree swaying in the breeze. Marcus hesitated. You okay with this? I smiled faintly. I was okay the moment I stopped needing her to lose. That weekend, I drove to the storage unit the movers had filled. Rows of boxes stacked neatly, labeled in her handwriting. I opened one. Inside, framed photos. Us smiling. Vacations. Anniversaries. Ghosts of a marriage that had already ended long before Dallas. I picked up a single photo, her arm around me, beach sunset behind us. She looked at the camera. I looked at her. I set it back in the box, closed the lid, and walked out. On the way out, I locked the unit and handed the key to the manager. Dispose of it, I said. He frowned. All of it, I confirmed. And I walked away without looking back. The cruelest revenge isn't taking everything from someone. It's showing them they never mattered enough to hold on to in the first place. Some revenge is loud, but the most dangerous? It's whispering.